Father just asked me to give you a small reflections on the feast we celebrate today and the gospel reading we just heard. You see, we are celebrating Christmas. We are used to thinking of Christmas from the beautiful perspective. We watch movies, we see the depiction in drama of the Christmas story. We even organize theaters, plays, Christmas plays. And the impression we get is that it's all beautiful. It's a wonderful story. Our Lord came from heaven. God himself became man to be like us, to make us become divine like him. Very beautiful story. Nothing can compare with that. But yeah, theologically speaking, that is true. But the physical reality about the coming of Jesus is what we miss. His mother, Mary, was a young girl, a teenager who got pregnant in a little village called Nazareth. Of about, archaeology reveals to us that there were not more than 150, 200 people living in Nazareth. That was a small village. Everyone knows everyone. The families, they were practically the same family. So in that ancient culture, you can imagine for yourself what it meant for a young teenager to become pregnant. Ever before she was married. She was an unmarried, pregnant girl. To be rejected by her own society. But not just to be rejected. Not just to be cast away. But she was running the risk of being stoned to death. Leviticus and Deuteronomy tell us that a young girl who commits fornication will be stoned to death. And that was the presumption, or else how could a young girl get pregnant? In this picture, this is what we miss in modern times when we think of it, that Our Lady was running the risk of being killed. Then she gave birth to Jesus. Joseph stood by her side, thank God. Revealed by the angel of God, he knew that there was a mystery here beyond him. And he stood by Mary. Mary was born in the manger. They couldn't find a place in any home. That wasn't a beautiful story. The first people that came to see the child when he was born were poor shepherds. He wasn't born among the royalty, the noble men. And then when the news filtered out to the king, Herod, that a child who was destined to be king had been born, Herod did not want any competition. He asked the wise men, they weren't wise men, by the way. They were magi from which we get our modern word magicians. They were the magi. They came from Persia, today's Iran. They came, closest to what they were is what we may call astrologers today. People who try to look at the stars and will be able to say what the movement of the stars meant. They were astrologers. For them, they had dictated from the movement of the stars that something great had happened somewhere, and they followed the star and came to Israel. They came to Judea. Herod was not comfortable with such a message. We know the rest of the story, and this king, a power monger, set out to kill the children we celebrate today, the holy innocents. to kill every child 2 years or under. Because, calculating from the dates as revealed by the wise men, by the astrologers, he could guess that the child could not be more than 2 years. How can somebody be so carried away by his quest by power that he decided to kill a child who posed no threat to him? But that was Herod. From what we know about Herod in history, by the way, the story of the killing of the Holy Innocents is not reported anywhere outside of the Bible. But then there are a lot of historical records regarding Herod himself. Herod, we know, killed 5 members of his family just because he thought any of them was too ambitious to replace him as king. And before Herod died, knowing that he was well hated by everyone, he decided to summon the noble men in his territory. And they all came around and he killed them to make sure that when he finally takes the last breath, there will be wailing in the land. Can you imagine that? Lying in his sick bed and dying, lying in his deathbed, he knew that his entire territory hated him and that he would die without anyone mourning for him. So he killed hundreds of men so that while mourning for your family member who he had killed, you will be indirectly mourning at his death. So this fits the picture of such a tyrant, such a power monger, that he could also kill the holy innocents. The picture we get here is that Jesus, when he came, did not come in a bed of roses. He came, he identified himself with all classes of the marginalized. In trying to escape the killing hands of Herod, he found himself in exile. He lived outside his own homeland. What we can see here is that the time of Jesus' birth fits the social phenomena we continue to experience today. Marginalization, injustice, terrorism, violence, immigration, people leaving their whole land forced by circumstances beyond their control to find themselves elsewhere. We want to identify with Jesus. But what happens to us in modern times is that while we want to identify with Jesus, we find it difficult to identify with the people who are exactly as he was. The people who are marginalized, who find themselves outside their homeland as immigrants, people who are poor and people who suffer injustice. These are the very people who are like Jesus. Jesus wants us, as we celebrate Christmas, to identify with him by recognizing that there are so many holy innocents, not just at his birth, but today, all around us. They may not be dead yet, but they are going through circumstances that make them like the people who died at his birth.